Earlier, you talked about how in your 30-day protocol, the second week, you start introducing intermittent fasting for people. For somebody that's brand new to that practice, let's go over how they begin.
You start with eliminating the snacks, having just 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Let's say it's 8 a.m., 12 a.m., and 8 p.m. First, that's how you start. Then you start with a 12-hour fast, which is right there, right? If you're done eating at 8 p.m. and you wait until 8 a.m., you're fasted for 12 hours. What I mean by fasted, no food, just water. You get away with tea, but that's it during your fasting window, and some electrolytes. That's it, unflavored electrolytes. Then you build up the fasting window to 14 hours. So you could do that in this example by either taking your dinner from 8 p.m. to 6 p.m. or taking your breakfast from 8 a.m. to 6 a.m. It doesn't matter, but 14 hours fasted, that leaves you with a 10-hour eating window. Then we build you up to a 16-8 where you're fasted for 16 hours and you have an 8-hour eating window. You're still having 3 meals in that window, but it's condensed to a 8-hour window. And then we continue to go to an 18-6 schedule where it's 18 hours fasted, 6-hour eating window, 2 or 3 meals, depending on how much food you want to have in that window. And then we kind of progress to a 24-hour fast, and then we could get more aggressive with these longer fasts.
Okay, but when it comes to maintenance day to day, is 18-6 the baseline?
Yeah, I like 18-6 as a standard day-to-day sort of maintenance protocol. It gives you enough time in a fasted state to get these amazing benefits and enough time in your eating window, 6 hours, to get your protein requirements. So I do like an 18-6.
Okay, you mentioned tea can be had during the fasting window. What about coffee and then coffee with fat? I think you mentioned you put collagen or protein in yours. If we start adding some of these things in, is that still part of the fasting window?
That's actually the number one question I get asked when I talk about fasting, Jesse. Does coffee break a fast? What breaks a fast? Okay, first we need to discuss, what does it mean to break a fast? My definition of breaking a fast is when you, number one, start your digestive processes and you lose the autophagy benefits, the cellular cleanup process. And that happens when you raise glucose, when glucose goes up. So for me, my definition of breaking a fast is when you raise glucose. With coffee, let's say black coffee, it's different. And I've tested this with hundreds of people. You know, Dr. Pompa, you've had on the show. He's
Yeah.
my mentor, a great friend of mine. When we were doing his conferences back in 2018, 2019, we would have Keto Mojo was a sponsor of his conferences, and we would talk about this coffee break of fast. So we had hundreds of people line up and test their blood glucose and ketones, drink the coffee and test it again to see if coffee breaks the fast. And we discovered that it's kind of like 50-50, meaning the best way to know is to test your blood glucose right before you have the coffee. Let's say it's 85 milligrams per deciliter, which is a great fasting glucose. Drink the coffee, test it an hour later, and see what happens to the glucose. If the glucose goes up 5 points or higher, yes, you are breaking the fast. It's lowering the autophagy benefits. If the glucose stays the same or drops, it's not breaking the fast. And what we discovered is that it's different for everybody. The only way to know is to test. With the fats, you could do the same thing in test, but you should know you are going to burn the calories from the fat versus the body fat. With tea is safe. Tea seems to be safe as long as there's no sugar added and artificial sweeteners. Tea is safe. Water is safe. Unflavored electrolytes are safe. Protein in the coffee, like I do, breaks the fast. I'm breaking my fast when I do that. I had about 40 grams of collagen protein in my coffee this morning. That will break a fast. Any protein that's over like 5 grams or so will break the fast. It'll raise glucose.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch the full episode. I'll see you over there.
I focused on hormones and inflammation. I lost 80 pounds of fat in 9 months. I went from 34% body fat at my highest to 6% body fat at my leanest. And that was 17 plus years ago. I am proof that it worked, and I kept it off since then.